Welcome to the Cycle Starters podcast, where we have powerful conversations with inspiring guests about their ancestral healing journeys, astrology, and embodied transformation of generational patterns for more joy, peace, love, and abundance in your life. I'm your host, Heather Rebecca Wilson, and today we're diving deep into the world of sacred rituals and self-mastery with our special guest, Alexandria, founder of SoLuna Metanoia. Alexandria is a spiritual life guide who beautifully bridges the gap between the practical and the mystical. Through her work, she helps individuals transform their lives by blending tools like human design, astrology, and tarot with practical project management expertise. In today's episode, we'll explore how rituals can become a powerful part of your everyday life, discussing the mind-body-spirit connection, and discovering how understanding your unique energy design can lead to profound personal transformation. Whether you're just beginning your spiritual journey or you're looking to deepen your practice, this conversation will offer valuable insights into creating lasting change and living authentically. So let's welcome Alexandria and dive into this enlightening conversation. Hey, sis.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm so excited to be connecting with you today. Well, thank you for saying yes to doing this. And also thank you for saying yes to being a guest teacher in the Ancestral Healing Collective monthly membership in the month of March. And so we will be getting into your workshop in a little bit. But I wanted to start our conversation talking about ancestral healing, about your ancestors and your ancestry. So what do you feel comfortable sharing about, your ancestral background?
It's a mixed bag, pun intended. My dad was black and my mom is white. And so to dive a little deeper into that, because we have a lot of mixed kids, right? My mom's side of the family is Italian and German, and I think there's probably some British and French and things in there too. And then my dad's side of the family, my dad would claim that we're Haitian. He might be right. We're not entirely sure, but I know I did 23andMe and got the ancestral report, and definitely Nigerian, some West African stuff in there, and I think there's even a little bit of sub-Saharan African generalized in there, some places from the Congo and Angola and things like that. But that side's not as specific as I know as on my mom's side, because like my great-grandma was Italian and my great-grandpa was German. My grandma's, mom and dad. That I know for certain, but it's kind of cool to see it on the ancestral map too, because those are all represented. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, we have that multiracial background in common. And I'm curious as to how, being mixed has been a part of your ancestral healing journey. Can you speak to that at all?
Yeah, because when I started my spiritual awakening in, that was like 2019, there's all different kinds of spiritual traditions. I grew up Catholic, so there's the religion and then there's the traditions, which are very different in my opinion. But I always was into Greek and Roman mythology and Egyptian or ancient Kemet, mythology, and really been drawn to those things. But then learning about other types of magic per se that could be within my bloodlines. I've had several readings that are like, oh, you've got, don't let this freak you out, but it's like, oh, there's voodoo in your family. And I'm like, that's interesting, because there's different types of voodoo. There's Vodun, there's Ifa, there's all of these different things that you can learn about and get into. And I've just really been on a path of discovery about what is spirit leading me to, because I ran from the voodoo and the Ifa stuff for a long time, because I didn't know. I just didn't understand. I was like, I don't follow rules well. So it's like just diving into all of that. I read a lot and just really kind of blending and bonding with whatever gods, goddesses, angels, guardians, guides kind of show up for me, and just learning more about them. I've always been drawn to Horus.
Mm-hmm.
And I have the Eye of Horus, the left eye tattooed on me, on my back. And was drawn to that before I even got into this work. So really seeing how a lot of the energies align with what I've always been drawn to now that I know more about it is really cool. I'm like, oh, I love New Orleans. And a friend of mine who does tea leaf readings and is a super psychic. She's like, "You're really connected to New Orleans." And I was like, "Am I?" And then I, realized that there's just certain, I think, I have certain guides and certain energies that will come through me in certain spaces. And I'm just like, oh, okay, we're trusting our intuition of where we're being led is really what it is. So it's been an interesting road to kind of just learn about both sides of my ancestry and kind of just weaving and fusing that together, because I don't discriminate with who I work with as long as they're here for my highest and best good. We'll start with the spiritual awakening real quick. Working on being concise these days because it's a long story, but went to my first psychic fair here in Kansas City and met my godmother, essentially, and went through a school with her. She started a psychic school, which basically taught you how to step into your gifts and to learn how to read cards, learn how to meditate, to get in touch with your inner energy and to really start that journey. After the first year we did that, I started doing readings. Started doing paid readings. I'd have prophetic dreams. My dad would have those too. And so it was really about opening up to release the fear around the dreams, because they used to freak me out, and really tapping in. I'm like, okay, God, spirit, universe, what are we doing here? And I started meditating every day. I started pulling a card every day. I started really paying attention to what was going on around me. I learned more about astrology. I learned what human design was and really got into that and found out I was a projector. And I was like, well, what is that about? And most people get really upset when they find out they're projectors. Like, you don't have any energy. And it's like, first of all, that's a lie. We're not going to believe that. We all have energy, but learning how to work with my energy in the way that it was designed to flow best was the most challenging part. I'd always worked 2 jobs. I was always on the go. I was always go, 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 which is what the world conditions you to be, because if you're not busy, you're not being productive. You're not doing anything. And that's just not true. That's how we've all been conditioned to run. Learning about, waiting for the invitation as a projector, being able to put myself out there to be seen so people could recognize what I'm good at and then invite me in. It's like you inviting me on the podcast was something of that nature. It's like, oh, I'm interested in what you have to say. And I'm like, oh, I'm interested in what you have to say. And I will, come on in here and do that. So let's fast forward from 2019 to 2023. I switched jobs in 2022. One of my dream jobs got to be a product manager for a custom software firm. So I'm getting to make apps and things of that nature. And it's really fun. And then I get laid off in June of 2023. One of my worst fears ever, because again, I've always had several jobs, and that pushed me into focusing on my business more. It pushed me into actually having to face the ancestral wounds that I was carrying and that I was now responsible for, as my grandma had passed on and transitioned in 2021, I believe. And having the opportunity to have her journal, to read a journal from whenever my mom and my 2 aunts were really young. And my grandma was my second mom. So seeing that version of her, I'm like, who is this woman? But also realizing, looking at her astrology chart, because I was blessed to have her birth time, and seeing the synchronicities between, we both have Libra Venus in the first house. She was a Sag, I'm a Scorpio, but just to see there's other things in there. And I'm like, oh my goodness, these are very similar things. And I see how, since she was helping to raise me, how they showed up in me, how they showed up in my mom, how they showed up in my aunts. And having that perspective allowed me to really sit with a lot of those wounds around being seen, around stepping more into my feminine energy. Again, I was raised by strong women and I've been in the masculine energy majority of my life. We all played sports, highly competitive, not taught about nervous system regulation. You're going all the time. And it's about pushing. It's about doing all the things. Well, feminine energy does create, right? But there's a nurturing and a care that comes with it too. And I was neglecting my self-care. I was drinking enough water for a while, but then I wasn't. And it's like, well, what type of food are we eating? And just really understanding what my body, mind, and spirit needed, which it's still an everyday practice, because they say the human design deconditioning takes 7 years, or put that in air quotes because everybody's different. But really getting to look at yourself in a way and understand what is yours and what came from someone else has been the biggest challenge, because you know what you know. And it's about really connecting with my own spirit to be like, okay, does this even feel right? Have I been conditioned to just ignore? I mean, we're all taught to use our minds for everything. And we're so highly disconnected from our bodies because of the way that this country works, even. And I'd say a lot of the world to a certain extent too. But getting reconnected with my body and understanding that in human design, that is how you make your decisions in life. I'm an emotional authority. I have a lot of emotions. Understanding now not to make that spontaneous yes, no. Hey, when do you need to know? Can I sleep on that? And if somebody tries to rush me through that, it's usually not for me. Trusting that has been really, really challenging because you just want to go. You want to force things. You want to do what you've always done. It's like, no, we're not. No, we're changing our habits. We're changing our beliefs. We're changing the way we think, the way that we speak to ourselves, and being that example and practicing every day with my friends, my family, when I show up online, when I meet strangers, even. And the projector part of it is getting really good at not giving unsolicited advice, which I've done a lot because I'm like, I know how to fix this. I can help you. Do you want to know? And then I tell them, and then they're like, who asked you? They don't say that, but their energy, I can see they'll close off. And then sometimes people will get irritated, and then I feel bitter. And now I know, I'm like, oh, I'm feeling bitter. I am out of alignment. Let me figure out what needs I have that I'm not meeting. So that way I can help other people understand why this is so important and why slowing down is important specifically, why rest is so important and is productive. If your brain doesn't get enough rest or enough water, it's not even functioning at half its capacity. It can't do everything that it's brilliantly meant and made to do. So that has been a lot of how we kind of got here today, and just rebuilding my own habits and learning to ignore the people that are outside of me saying, you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to sleep when you die. And I'm like, dude, sleep is one of the main things that will shorten your life if you don't get more of it, if you don't get an adequate amount of it. So that has been really challenging, of slowing down. Like even this past weekend, I mean, I bartended this weekend, and I'm like, I'm still recovering from the lack of sleep, but it's a balance, you know? We don't do everything 100% sometimes all the time, and we ebb and we flow.
So thank you for sharing that. And you shared a lot, but one thing that stuck out in terms of what you said was this wound around fear of being seen. And so what I want to talk about next is what specifically are the generational patterns that you feel like you're dissolving? I know you mentioned a few, but can we just dive a little bit deeper into that?
Yeah, absolutely. So really embracing that feminine energy and authentic self-expression. And that comes with being seen, right? It comes with, again, my second mom, my grandma, and this is my white grandma, my Italian and German grandma, being born in 1943 and coming in as like this hellraiser, you could kind of say. She didn't hold her tongue for anybody. She was this fiery being. I mean, Sag Sun, Aries Moon, Libra Rise, just combustible, but then not being accepted, I guess, for who she really was. You know, women were taught to be small, taught to be quiet, oh, you're going to be the secretary. All you can do is cheerleading. Well, that's not what she wanted to do. And her instilling a lot of that in us, but also that came with a lot of being hyper masculine, not knowing how to be soft. We didn't really hug growing up. Hugged whenever she got older, because I think she realized, you know, some things were changing, but not really embracing emotions. We didn't really talk about really deep topics in the house. You know, some things were taboo, and I'm getting to know my aunt some more, and she was mentioning that there's just certain things you just didn't talk about. And now it's like, but in order to heal myself, to be who I'm meant to be and to be seen in my authenticity and the way that I was born to be, we have to heal those wounds because I've made myself small. I'm 5'11", 5'10" and a half. Grandma always told me, you know, walk with your head held high, your shoulders back. You walk in the room like you own it. Don't let anybody say anything about you. And also be humble. Be mindful of what you say. Don't be arrogant. Don't brag on yourself too much. And when you're a kid, that can turn into, well, I just don't tell anybody that I'm good at anything because it feels like I am being braggadocious was one of her words. And now it's really understanding like, oh no, that's not bragging. This is who I am, and this is what I was meant to do, is to share that with others, to help other people also understand that they deserve to show up as exactly who they are. And grandma not being able to be or do everything that she wanted to do, she was doing all of that at a good place for us, to be humble, whatever, but it also stifled me, right? In that, and no fault of her at all. She was doing the best she could with what she knew. And even my mom just worked swing shift. She was a single mom. So every other week I was with grandma, and my mom even not knowing sometimes what she wanted to do or be when she grew up, basically. So that is something that I've been breaking through as well. What I do doesn't have to look like anything else that's come before me. And I'm the first entrepreneur in the family, essentially. Grandma, like, they had a couple businesses on the side, but they all had regular jobs too. And this is unlike anything that anybody's ever done in the family too. And it's like, okay, I'm going to be the weirdo because we're all weird, but embracing it as my magic and sharing and not feeling like I'm too much, not feeling like I am, crazy for saying these off the wall things. I see signs, I see synchronicities, I see patterns, I receive messages. And I was raised Catholic. Again, grandma was a half-assed Catholic is what she would say, but still highly devout and really believed in God. And I saw that in her journal. And that has always been with me, but it's also not just Catholicism, the whole of it all, and expanding. And she got to know that I was doing readings before she did pass. And I was so afraid to tell her, but she was just like, as long as you're doing what you love, I don't care. And I was like, okay. So that's like the main thing, is to just really be who I am unapologetically, so that I can show up as that example for my ancestors that are to come after me, whether they come from me or not. It doesn't matter. On either side of the family, be who you are. We have this cousin, cousin Alexandria. She's done all these wild things. You can do wild things too. Wild, unconventional kind of things. So yeah, those are the cycles I feel that I'm breaking, and really empowering others to just be themselves at all times, no matter who is around them or what's going on, but also knowing, okay, when do I actually need to reel it in and observe versus just, here I am, like superstar kind of thing.
Thank you for sharing all of that. I too was raised Catholic. I will, sometimes identify as a recovering Catholic, but your grandmother sounds like a very wise, awesome woman. Thank you for sharing all those tidbits and stories about her. I want to dive into a bit of astrology, because you've been sprinkling in, some tidbits. And I want to know, if you feel comfortable, what's your sun, moon, and rising sign?
So I am a Scorpio sun, a Capricorn moon, and a Virgo rising. Now, I'll be specific. I'm a 29 degrees Virgo rising. So that makes a difference for those of you who know astrology. I use both house systems because it's not nuanced enough if I just use whole signs. I'm like, well, but really in Placidus and everything else, my 12th house is mostly Virgo. So people mostly are like, how do you do that? I'm like, what do you mean? I just exist. I don't know. They're like, that must be hard, I guess.
Okay, so we have the Virgo energy in common. I'm a Virgo moon. So, okay, you said Scorpio sun and Capricorn moon. So right away, I mean, it's so obvious, all the water signs are incredibly psychic and intuitive, and Scorpio being fixed water, this is where you shine. Yes, obviously you are naturally extremely psychic, extremely intuitive, and you feel very deeply. It's so interesting that it's balanced by this Virgo rising, which is mutable earth, and your rising sign is, your vehicle for your divine mission, right? It's what people notice about you when they first meet you. And also the people that you're meant to serve, they often will gravitate and be attracted to your rising sign qualities, because that is what they want to develop within themselves. And then you've got this very earthy, practical Capricorn moon, which I find to be so interesting. For those of you who are unfamiliar in terms of what the moon represents in your natal chart, for me, it's your emotions, your ancestral wounds, but also the gifts that your ancestors have given you. So it's like your emotional inheritance. And then I also have learned, and I share with all my clients, that it's important to learn how to do your moon, because you are responsible for doing whatever it takes to feel comfortable and at home in your own energy, right? That's doing your moon. And so what I've learned just in my studies and working with clients is that while Capricorn is this very grounded, practical workhorse that can really achieve a lot, it has an emotional side. From the waist up, Capricorn is the mountain goat that climbs the highest heights. And from the waist down, it has a fishtail. And so if people with a big Capricorn presence, especially a Capricorn moon, don't maintain their emotional life, schedule time to, connect with a friend, downtime to connect with their emotional selves, you can really be prone to burnout. So I would love to hear more about how you manage your emotions and your emotional life with this Capricorn moon.
Yeah, very great points. The sea goat. We love the mystical sea goat. Like, what is that? I have rising and resting rituals. I call them my bookends to kind of hold all the books that I'm going to open throughout the day, so they have some kind of support. And I meditate every morning. I have a body scan I do every morning before I leave my bed. I have affirmations. I've actually started a vlog, and now I check in on a video with, how's my mind? How's my body? How's my spirit? How am I feeling? And as an emotional authority in human design, it adds another layer of emotions to it. So understanding where I am in my wave of emotions every single day has been life-changing, because now, like you said, I maybe would start to cry at some point and I'd be like, lock it up. We're not doing that. Now, if I'm in a safe enough space, I will just let myself cry. I journal, I draw cards every day. So I go in and I write out, okay, let's reflect on yesterday. Let's see what's going on right now. Let's do the cards for the day. And then we'll reflect on those throughout the day, even how's my emotional state. And like you said, connecting with friends is really important. Having safe spaces where I can be my unhinged, because unhinged is definitely a thing. Unhinged, off the chain, colorful, unfiltered self is absolutely imperative for me to show up in my fullness without letting my emotions run the show. And I talk to myself out loud a lot. I record myself out loud a lot. So that way I can go back and listen if I want to, or just move those emotions out. I sing. So singing is another way that I help to regulate my nervous system in handling and making a space for those emotions to even exist so they don't spill over and I don't end up burnt out. And yeah, just that nervous system regulation part is one of the most important things I've learned about that. It's okay to scream into a pillow. It's okay to throw a fit sometimes. I'm not going to do that in front of anybody. However, I will process privately, but I will make time and space to reflect and process every single day.
I love that. So many good tips in there. So let's rewind back to this rising sign at 29 degrees of Virgo. This is super interesting to me because most people wouldn't know, unless you're really into astrology, that 29th degree is also known as the anorectic degree, and it is very mystical, and it is the degree of graduation and completion, right? It's like you are taking your final exam and what it means to be a Virgo. And like I said before, Virgo is mutable earth. Earth is the element that really represents what we build to create stability and structure and security in our lives. And Virgo in its high expression is so detailed and organized and is about making things better, right? It's the energy of refinement, which you could interpret as healing as well. And then in the lower expression, Virgo can be so hard on themselves. There's this crazy perfectionism that I'll find, and I've experienced myself being a Virgo moon. I really have had to learn how to, be nicer to myself, be less hard on myself. And I think I've come a long way. Talk to me about this 29 degrees of Virgo and how it shows up in your life.
Yeah, graduation indeed. I used to be so mean to myself, so mean. And because I don't mind talking about the rest of my chart, my Pluto and my Mercury are both in Scorpio at 12 degrees.
Okay,
So
so you
there's
got
an
a
added,
stellium.
yeah, there's a layer of let me tear myself down before somebody else does. So that way they can't possibly hurt my feelings. It would still hurt. But that's where I used to live. And it was modeled for me too, right? It was modeled for me and my family. And I refuse to call myself stupid. I will never say, oh, that is you stupid. I will never say that about myself ever again. I have
Good.
shifted my self-talk, which is something I also help people do, because your brain, your body, your spirit, it doesn't know that you're joking, and it will give you more examples to back that up. When I realized that, I was like, oh no, no. If I have any hand in this, we're going to start to view ourselves in a different way. I'm going to view myself in a different light and shift those beliefs and those thoughts. Because again, Mercury rules my chart. Also, there's shifting from curating my words in such a way to be the perfectionist to make sure that people receive what I have to say and understand it. Now I'm like, if you don't understand it, ask questions, but I can't do the work of you diving into the depths of what this means for you. I can give you my experience, but if you still don't understand, you're going to have to go do your own work. And I don't care anymore if somebody misunderstands something that feels very clear to me, if you know what I'm saying. I always say mutable signs are here to learn how to release control. Like people like fixed signs are control freaks. Well, yeah, in a different way. But to be able to learn how to adapt and go with the flow has been one of the most challenging things with that Virgo rising, because it's like, well, Scorpio wants to stick with everything. We don't know when to let go. We don't know when to let go. And the Virgo's like, yeah, and we're going to make it perfect. But actually, you don't even need to be doing that anymore because it's not in alignment. You're just being stubborn. So really working with that and learning how to flow has been huge, huge in that process of, graduating my Virgo. So, and my South Node is Virgo too. So it's like double whammy.
How interesting. Okay, so your South Node's in your first house, and then you have this stellium in Scorpio. So you really, really shine. Not only is your sun there, but you have Pluto, and I think you said Mercury as well. So you really love to go deep. This is the scorpionic superpower. You're not afraid of getting to the bottom of things, and it doesn't matter how dirty and ugly it is. You want to know the truth. And I also associate this archetype of the attentive detective to Scorpio energy. I'm curious, as a Scorpio, how do you deal when somebody hurts you? When somebody crosses you, are they scratched out forever? Because I've heard a friend say, like, I will paint over you. How do you deal with that betrayal or, when somebody crosses a boundary?
Maybe said, I will paint over you. That's hilarious. I've never said that, but I might put that in my vocabulary bank. Younger me was very untrusting of people. Me now, doing the healing work I've done, I think a lot of people know not to cross me, is what we're going to say. Because like you said, that I do go deep. I do go fast. I will tell you the truth. I will make you cry if I don't filter what I'm saying. It's somebody that I love, because we've all had issues with people that we love, not holding up their end of the bargain or whatever. I write out everything that I want to say, but would probably not say, because it will come out with the emotion. I wouldn't have any friends. People would be like, you are insane. And I'm like, well, I keep receipts in my brain. There's tabs. There's all kinds of things open in here. There's a file cabinet. Like you said, the detective is absolutely true. And I can read between the lines and I hear the energy of what people say, but I also have the diplomacy from my moon, and I'd say my Libra Venus, of I'm like, well, who hurt you? Are you okay? Why would you do this? Why would you do this? And I don't take things personal. The Four Agreements is one of my favorite books. And moving into the space of not taking things personal has salvaged so many things where I'm like, oh, I can just deal with you as this is what happened. It happened for me, honestly. So I could see something within myself that maybe still needed some reframing or healing or shifting or whatever. And also I can love you and I can kick you out of my life in the same breath. You have so many chances before I'm like, okay, now we're getting out of hand. There's a pattern here. When the pattern develops, it's like, I love you, but I can't, until you're ready to fix this or to heal this with our relationship or yourself, I can't have you around because the way that I absorb the energy, it's shifting my trajectory. And that's not okay. So if you're disrupting my peace after a certain point, I'm like, well, I love you, but you got to go. But I used to be very vengeful. I'm going to say this. When I was younger, I've had thoughts of torturing people from the Scorpio standpoint. I'm like, how dare they? How dare you? It's like, what is it? I forgot what movie it is. How dare you make me bleed my own blood?
Dodgeball.
Yes, yes. How could you do that to me? And now I'm like, oh, okay. Forgive them for they know not what they do, but don't do it more than twice. Because then you got to go.
Love everything you just shared. And it sounds like you've done a lot of work in terms of evolving this scorpionic energy. So that's really, really beautiful. And I think instructive for people who have that strong Scorpio presence and are experiencing, not their best life, right? You're definitely offering great advice around that. So I want to shift the conversation to this amazing live workshop that you have put together inside the Ancestral Healing Collective. And this is happening on March 11th. And I will be sure to put the sign up link in our show notes so people can learn more about it. It's called Sacred Rituals for Self-Mastery. So can you give us a little preview of what to expect and, let people know what they need to bring or how they can best prepare to get the most out of the experience?
Yes. First and foremost, always come with an open mind. Be prepared to look at yourself in a way maybe you've never looked at yourself before. And bringing your astrology chart, bringing your human design chart, having that ready is going to be important so that we can reference that because that will be referenced throughout the class. Something for notes, however you take notes. I don't care. I think there's recordings. So if you don't want to take notes and be fully present, whatever works for you. Maybe even a tarot or an oracle deck, because I'm a reader. I bring that into everything that I do. And we might even say, hey, I want you to pull a card for your energy today. I'll pull a card for the group most likely, but what's your individual layer of this energy so you can tap into you while being connected to the collective and the community as a whole? Because community is made up of individuals, and you can't have a community without individuals tapped into themselves. Well, you can, but a healthy community is what we're after. Getting in touch with yourself, but also we're going to look at body, mind, and spirit. I channeled a message, and it's now become kind of one of my flagship messaging points that we're here to build under the umbrella of self-awareness. In order to be self-aware, it's important that you connect with your mind, your body, and your spirit. The mind is multiple things, but it's self-talk. It's your thought. It's subconscious limiting beliefs and identities. The body is self-care. It's water, it's sleep, it's what you're ingesting either mentally or physically, like food-wise, right? And then you've got spirit, which is self-love. And to me, that's protecting your energy. It's connecting with your energy. It's understanding you energetically and with everything else together, because we can really only meet people as deeply as we have met ourselves. And we are all examples of how we treat us when we show up in relationship with other people. And so really, we're going to dive into those things, getting into who do you think you are? And not in the who do you think you are, thing, but who do you believe that you really are? What have people told you? Do you believe that? Do you buy into that? And uncovering some of those beliefs, we're going to go deep. So if you got some fear, I get it. But if you're also excited, I say you're in the right place. And if you have some anxiety, take a breath. Anxiety is just excitement without the breath. So we're here to learn about, how meditation can help you learn how to breathe and be grounded too, so that you're in your body and learning how to meet your own needs. Bring your water. Bring a snack. I don't care if you're eating while we're doing this. If you need to meet your needs, meet your needs. Don't self-neglect for the sake of the group. I used to do that a lot. And it's like, no more self-abandonment, please. Please. It doesn't go with this. So that's really my authenticity alchemy method is what that's really called. To really alchemize who you are and release all the pieces of who you're not so that you can you can show up as you in all spaces and all places. And we're going to talk about Atomic Habits. It's just one of my favorite books. The habit loop, the things like that. And in the body with, again, what are your rituals? What are your routines? What are your habits like? How much water do you drink on a daily basis? Which triggers a lot of people. They're like, oh my God, you're yelling at me. Why are you so loud? I'm like, well, you know that's for you. You know that that's something you need to work on. And then getting into that spirit part of the astrology and the human design and cards, and even bringing it all together by understanding your strategy, your type, your authority, your profile even, and then your big three. And I'm working on a formula to how to use both of those charts in conjunction to kind of help you map out and understand why maybe you struggled to implement habits, why you've struggled to be consistent, because consistency is the key to everything. And I think that's what most people often struggle with the most. There's going to be probably reflective prompts. Like it honestly keeps shifting every day. I keep adding more things. So there may be journal prompts and reflections, and it will feed into a community that I'm building, which is of the same name, Sacred Rituals for Self-Mastery. So you can not only get it in a class form, but then come and literally build your habits with other people who are wanting to expand, who are wanting to do the same thing. You can practice being your authentic self in this space with other people who are coming with love, who are coming with devotion to self. And I say an active devotion towards yourself is the highest act of devotion and love towards God, because we are made of the same things. God is not outside of you, how I believe anyway. And God's everywhere, in everything and everyone. And connecting to that energy through all of this helps us be more present, which helps us understand who we are in any given moment, and understanding that we have the choice. We have the choice always to react or to respond. I prefer to respond. My reactions are not that lower Scorpio nature where the Scorpio can sting itself, where I'm coming from the phoenix, from the dove, from the eagle, from the up here. Like, let me zoom out and not let, what is it? Like, I think it's crows that mess with eagles or something, like a murder of crows will mess with the eagles. And the eagle, you can fly so much higher than these birds to get away from that irritation that's being caused by you, by the outside world. Zoom out, go back into your sacred place, and know whenever you're out of alignment, when you're out of balance, when you're getting into that space, so you can choose your next steps accordingly, depending on how it is that you want to show up, instead of letting your emotions and everything else run you. So that's the gist, I think, for now. There might be more stuff added by the time we get to class. Who knows? It's always evolving.
Thank you. I am so excited. And by the way, the workshop is so Virgo. I love it. It's like Virgo Master is going to teach you all the rituals, how to be consistent. It's going to be so awesome. So if you guys are interested in learning more about this workshop, if you want to sign up, use the link in the show notes. This is happening on March 11th at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. It's $30 for any female-bodied being from any lineage or culture. If you're part of the Ancestral Healing Collective, which is my paid monthly membership, this workshop is included in addition to a recording of the workshop if you want to review the content. And then you'll also get access to our growing resource library of amazing workshops that have been led by really, really gifted and talented practitioners for the past 2 years. So there are more perks. You can go to heatherrebeccawilson.com to learn more about the membership. I also have a free community called the Cycle Starters Sanctuary, and the information is in the show notes. Alexandria, this has been an awesome conversation. I have to ask you this one question because I ask this of all my guests. What are the new cycles that you're starting in your lineages?
I feel like I say this all the time, and I've said it a few times, but it is authentically being me, not being afraid to be outspoken in sometimes in spaces, and to just really show up as who I'm being led to be versus who I've been taught to be, and who society has told me that I can be and who I can't be. And I'm like, who are you to say who I can and cannot be? I am the one who has the ultimate authority at the end of the day. You will not You will not tell me who I can and cannot be anymore. I will not allow it. I refuse. So that is really what it is. It is showing up no matter what anyone has to say about what I'm doing. If you don't understand it, cool, then I'm not for you. I'm not for everybody. And I've really learned to accept that I'm going to say some things that are going to trigger people, and it's going to send them down a tizzy. And sometimes I'm a catalyst for that. My godmother called me an impetus of change, that you're going to face what you need to face in order to grow and move forward if you're around me long enough. And if you don't, it's going to become really uncomfortable for you. So step into it. I'll help you. We'll support you. But yeah, that's the main thing, is just really being me and letting people into my personal life a little bit more, and my journey, and being less private, because I used to just keep everything very, very close to the chest, and for fear of public embarrassment. That's one of my biggest fears. They make people into YouTube remixes all the time. And I was like, I will be mortified if that happened. But, now I might just laugh at it. It might be funny. Like, oh, that's cute. And what are you saying to yourself if you're making fun of me? So yeah, I think that's the cycle I'm really starting.
Awesome. Well, again, I'm so excited for your workshop. Thank you for saying yes to being on the podcast. So if people want to find out more about you, all of the cool projects that you're working on, and basically how to work with you, where should they go to learn more?
So I got a couple things. My Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube are all SoLuna Metanoia, all the same across the board. I have my coaching consultations. Get them while they're free. So I keep telling people it might be $10, but still get them while they're free. It's at SoLunaMetanoia.com. And we'll give you the whole background of what we kind of go through and what coaching would be like with me. And I'm updating that too. So there's more things to come with that. And then if you are interested in readings, or if you're local to Kansas City, Missouri, I do have the Opus sound bed, a sound healing technology. The bed vibrates. You listen to frequencies. It's like sound healing on crack. But paperbell.me/SoLuna Metanoia is where you can book services with me. So that's where all of my services are, whether it's readings or, coaching consultation or whatever.
All right. Awesome. Well, Alexandria, this has been amazing. Thank you for being on the podcast. Again, if you want to learn more about Alexandria, about her workshop on March 11th inside the Ancestral Healing Collective, the link is below. And we will see you next time on the Cycle Starters podcast. Thanks, Alexandria. Thank you, everybody.
Thank
we'll see you later.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. All right. Bye.